How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to the Type QQ channel. It's QP Shooting Dangerous. It's another failed in the garbage bin 1cc run, or 1cc attempt for that matter. All the same, let's check it out. Let's dissect it. Let's break it down to each poor dodge. At least what we can say in the most casual setting ever, which I'd like to preface this as, this is certainly not your, buckle down, we must do this. This is really like, in my underpants type of thing, like wake up, scratch myself, play this game type of thing, what I was saying, yeah. We're getting better. We're getting further in the game. This is a better run than last time. We get a little bit further. We do implore a different type of strategy, although we do kind of stick with this three-way. Still, there are parts here and there that we switch off when the utility arises. But for the most part, we're here on our three-way. What we do try to implore is that we got to tip off that if you finish off a boss with your hyper attack, you get buku points. So that's what we're going to try to do. Of course, we can try to keep our chain going as well by killing enemies and killing bullets, destructible bullets. However, I'm not so sure that's going to be in the cards. Luckily, it does appear to be paused during the boss fight, so it's really just a matter of like, can you keep your chain going throughout the stage? However, I think at the point where we are right now, we just worry about not getting annihilated and not worrying about the best score ever. Despite the fact that we know, points and one-ups are linked, all the same. We'll take things as we can get, take things as we go. If we find that we can really buckle down, the first level, which I think maybe we can. Maybe that's something to consider. Trying to get some sort of like insane chain on our first level and just really try to, or at least first few levels, and really try to pile on the points before it gets too difficult for us. But at least for this run, we went for the hyper attack finish. And I can't say it really. I mean, we do have our best scoring run as of yet here. However, I can't say whether or not the hyper finish was really the deciding factor, or just getting further and naturally killing more enemies did, right? So I can't say. However, what I can say is this is the final form of first level's boss, which we always have to make a crack at it and make mention that this is one of the boss musics for boss themes for a boss in Kaiken as well, which is pretty hilarious. I think Kaiken is a fan game a fan game entirely. So I think they just kind of borrowed music from wherever they could. This being, I guess, a favorite. So they went that route with this. But yeah, a little funny tidbit there. For those who like Kaiken, but I can tell you from my viewer numbers, not a lot of people on my subscriber side. There we go. Last kill was the hyper attack. I mean, we're still going to use our hyper attack in areas where we think we will get another one before, the final boss. Picked up an extend there. However, we kind of always do, so I'm not sure if we tend to always get about the same amount of points. It's something to really look into, look into our previous runs and see where our high score is at level 1, that sort of thing. And see if it was really much improved, or improved rather. And maybe it's not so much of like the final form as it is each form, finishing off each barrage or each each attack with your hyper attack is the way to go, not just the final form. It'd be interesting to kind of test it out. However, as I've mentioned before, it's not necessarily the most like dire circumstances. Not the if we stumble into a 1cc, that's super great. But I think this game is filling that void of like just casually playing something until something more interesting comes along. I mean, I think I made the mistake really of jumping into too many exorcism runs and promising, hell, we're gonna play this until we beat it, and then missing some cool stuff. I think I made mention of that before, where a lot of these games, if you really want to get good, if you really want to get your 1cc, you have to spend some time with it, with that game and that game alone sometimes, until it's done. Kind of learn the language, learn the levels, learn the patterns, that sort of thing. And yeah, and in the case of whether it be like Toho 6, Jet Buster, what have you, certainly missing some things along the way that I wish we kind of, I kind of broke the rules with Road Doom, if you remember. I was like, man, I kind of want to play this game. Sort of strange post-apocalyptic car game, and luckily I didn't get punished too much, honestly. I was able to play it a couple times, and go back to Toho, and luckily I, played that game enough where, a lot of it is second nature, Getting a little crowded here, but nice payout there as well. So maybe it's not so much of, bosses, but like mini bosses. Finishing off large enemies with your hyper attack, might prove to be beneficial. Three-way doing pretty well, not hitting them all, but doing pretty well of defending us from these sort of vines. It looks like they're going to take like 3 shots to be killed, so doesn't always happen, but and this first form is just about finished here. There it goes. And really, although this one doesn't look all that treacherous, probably the one that keeps me the most on my toes. We have your sort of death lasers from these sort of flowers from above, but it's really these sort of bouncing flowers that kind of make me a little nervous of where I am in the stage. I haven't played this boss enough to really tell that these flowers have the same patterns over and over. So it does kind of feel, at least at this moment, that it is a bit like random. Last form here, and we just picked up our hyper attack. So one thing that we'll try to do is once he's low in life, dunk it here and hopefully capture some pretty decent points. There is a kind of a sweet spot that our 3-way diagonal shots will take care of those vines as well, so we won't have to worry about too many important dodges. But it looks like we're kind of catching them every other time. Yeah, now is about time we should click that on. There it is, and he's over. You can kind of tell all those what would be like green turn to gold stars. So maybe that's kind of what you're looking for. Enemies that produce a lot of green when they're dead. Make that gold. Pick up the extends. But here we are, like the last run, level 3, without being killed or rather hit for a life. But as we know from previous runs, this is the sort of first hurdle of challenge, particularly the boss, and particularly the sort of Ferris wheel area with some really tanky enemies. Choosing to go with our hyper attack here, where we know just our diagonals are going to be hitting that, so why not kill it a little bit faster? In fact, I think this whole level really does kind of, there's our bringing us up to 5, that extend right there. This whole level, as I was saying, does kind of just beg for your hyper attack, at least for me at this point, where, you know, I can kind of justify using it whenever. Not saying it's too brutal, but like, yeah, there's a lot of just tanky, chunky enemies with life gauges that just show up and spit a lot of bullets that I would rather just see vanish. Alright, here we are. Easiest enemy in the game. And maybe considering using our hyper attack to finish him off as well. We're not going to here. However, maybe that wouldn't be a bad idea to think about in the future. It'd be a sort of risk-reward thing, because he does pretty much show up right before some of the more hairier, you know, times in the game. So, you know, do we want to go for the points, or do we want to kind of make sure we have our hyper attack ready for this area coming up next? Using our hyper attack and switching it to fire, just so we can quickly kind of get the better of these sort of Ferris wheel pods. And we've talked about it last video, why they're such a nuisance. Not only do they, you know, shoot a bunch of bullets into the sky, you know, they are very tanky, and they also block shots. So it's, yeah, it's not necessarily that they're, you know, the most difficult item or enemy to take care of. It's just that they just make everything else, as well as every other pod, you know, that survives, really more difficult. So it's very much of a just sort of, you know, pick up your trash, and, you know, as you make it, so it's not this just giant, you know, giant mess, you know, before you can really make any sense of it, you know. I mean, granted, with this three-way shot, you know, we can take care of some enemies kind of at random, you know, off our diagonal shots. I mean, the sad thing is right now, we are kind of looking at going against the boss with an empty gauge. Unless these bats can give us... Actually, yeah, the bats give us a pretty decent favor with filling our gauge up right before the boss. Maybe that was their intended use, we never know. But here we are. This is what we're talking about before. This is... we have not been touched up until this boss fight, so maybe we can keep our 5 lives going forward. But this is, as we've been saying, the sort of first barrier of challenge. Not particularly this form at all, but the others for sure. Particularly the second one in its entirety. And we'll certainly hope that we can kind of minimize damage as much as possible. And I mean, once we see that we can kind of really sort of flawless this boss, this is probably where our 1cc is going to be kind of, you know, kept from us, you know, this boss fight particularly. Well, there's one damage right there. Sort of an impulse of, okay, shit, we got hit, let's just kind of escape. Maybe not the best time to use it, considering it's just was wasted on mobs. Trying to stay in the center of the stage as well. Alright, here we are again. Hopefully, if we can kind of keep our head above water. That we're not going to. Well, there we go. 2 damage so far in this run, in this boss fight, in this form alone. Here we are, however. Boss is just about gone. Final form, we have our hyper attack. So we're hoping, at the very least, maybe we can get enough points out of killing the boss to kind of recover one of the lives we've lost. So strange that this fight is kind of sandwiched between 2 really basic and easy forms, and then this flurry of strange attacks. Hyper Finnish there. Some points here for the end. Hey, and just like we wanted, we got a free life back. So 4th stage, 4 lives. A bit disappointing that we took 2 hits on the last boss, but I mean, it is the best we've done. You know, we haven't had any other damages taken, luckily, thus far, except for the boss that we knew was going to give us some problems. And really, the same attack hit us twice. You know, the sort of those bunnies that went around in circles and shot us, and we got ourselves into trouble and got hit. That sort of thing. So, I mean, who knows what will happen once we figure that out, right? Hyper attack, ready to go. God knows it probably has the tank's name written all over it. Here's our first tank. Pretty poor right there. We should not have been hit there. Just careless, really. I think what we tried to do is we wanted to use our hyper attack on both tanks at the same time, using our straight and our diagonal shot to hit both of them. And I think we just sort of stood in the way of bullets, trying to line up our own shot. Interesting to use the hyper shot there instead, and using the sort of diagonal shot off our right to shoot that tank that usually just runs us over and kills us. So, I mean, despite the fact of getting tagged for, for a life there, I mean, we sort of recovered and kind of found a different new use for it. For the hyper attack, that is. So maybe, something to think about in future runs is maybe not necessarily worry about, killing 2 tanks with 1 stone, but using our hyper attack to kind of take care of that bottom tank. But certainly getting a little harrowing here. We want to kill off all those little turrets before we can actually kill the ship itself. There we go. And much like the Ferris wheel from the last stage, this is only as hard as we make it we want to make it. There it is, some damage there. Really preventable as well. Alright, bringing it down to its final form. Shooting a little off-center just so we can catch those bombs as they come in. However, yeah, not catching any bombs off any side, really, in doing so. So, a little tricky, although it's not the most, harrowing attack to worry about. So that plane needs to fucking go, but it survived. Getting a lot of green, but do we have... Okay, we do have enough. Are we going to kill the thing in time? And I believe we did, however, it was pretty close. Doesn't appear to be enough points to bring us up to 3 lives, however. Here's the boss that's taken us down before. one thing that we have to keep in mind is that, a lot of her attacks, like these, the feathers here, can be destroyed, as well as these playing cards. So we're going to be given a lot of green stars to just kind of, to fuel our, hyper attack back at her. Which is exactly what we did. We just got on one hyper attack, given another one. So why not keep it going? We know what's coming next is that roulette wheel. Going to switch over to fire. I think fire is the way to go, just to kind of get us out of this madness. Maybe used fire a bit too early there. But, I mean, when it's locked onto her, it does a lot of damage. Also kind of shreds these roulette wheels pretty well. Yeah, that's how we died last time. Just set up wrong and just kind of spawn killed. A pretty awesome extend right there out of the blue. Mid fight here. Back to three-way. Seems to be working out pretty well with all these different dice coming from every which way direction. And honestly, this is the furthest we've come, so we can certainly try to finish her off with this. Let's see if I think it was just a second too short. I'm not entirely sure, but I think it was. Actually, not to mention it's not her final form, so. Then she's this giant mecha. 2 lives, 2 lives. Certainly not get punched or run into things there, so that's not so hot. Hopefully we make it through. I mean, we're not going to get an extend anytime soon, so we have to really, really keep it together here. Using our hyper to kind of, add damage and clear off some of those shots. See, if we can get one more hyper, that'd be great, but as you can see, that thing down there, our gauge is not very high on it. So she goes down. We make it through the level. However, not really with the the hyper attack finish that we'd like. But I think just reaching the final stage here, thumbs up so far. Granted, it is just with 1 life. So certainly there are parts of the game that parts of this run that could have gone better. But there it is. There's our 1 life down. We are down to our final hit with these really tanky spaceships. Interesting little rocket there on the side as well. Poorly dodged there at the end. But I mean, stuff we haven't seen yet. So I hate to go down that way, but hey. It is better, and it is vastly, a lot more points than we have been playing, with. So let's take a quick look through our ribbit room here and see what we can, use our points for. A few more different, few different other bullet patterns here. It's a shame you can't even actually check out things unless you could afford it. It looks like Wiper's going to be the one to go with. 2-sword attack. Be something to look into for sure. Alright guys, that's going to be it for this video. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a like, leave a comment, do all that stuff. We'll come back and play some more QP shooting Dangerous in the future.